Hi, it's Amy. I'm glad you're back. I wanted to discuss something really quickly first about the importance of watching all these videos from the very beginning. To just cherry pick a video here and there is not effective. Unless you understand things from the beginning and see how each thing I'm saying builds on the next, it is so much more effective in any course of treatment. I hesitate to say treatment because I'm not a therapist, but in you working on making changes, it's very important that you start from the beginning so you understand what I'm discussing each and every day. All right? With that said, in the last video, we discussed how the behaviors and experiences of your childhood influence your behavior today. And I'm going to give you a quick example of how that really happens. George is a 30-year-old man. His parents beat him whenever they were drinking and got into a fight. He was very scared, hurt, and bewildered when his parents treated him like this. They told him that they loved him, and then they would treat him horribly. He felt guilty and disgusted with himself. He felt he must be doing something wrong to be treated like this. Gradually, he felt that his friends must also know that there was something wrong with him. And so George felt ashamed and withdrew from his friends. As George withdrew, his friends noticed his withdrawal. They felt that trying to talk to him only disturbed him and irritated him. So out of respect, they stopped bothering him and left him alone. George wasn't thinking too clearly. His emotions were confused. He thought that he was being rejected by them. He also began withdrawing from activities, thinking that he was not good enough to do well in them. And after George was withdrawn for a long time, he had no friends and no healthy activities left. He came to expect rejection or failure if he tried anything new. He also became afraid of people, thinking if they got to know him and knew what he was really like, they would laugh at him or they would hate him. He had no self-esteem and thought that he was a failure in life. He was depressed and he was lonely. When he was 16, he discovered marijuana, and he figured that would make him feel better. He also found that when he was stoned, he could talk with other drug users. He gradually began using more potent drugs and more of them. Then, in addition to his basic fear of people and lack of self-worth, he became addicted to drugs. He became increasingly fearful of people and authority. His life was nothing to look at, and so he didn't even trust himself anymore. Trust was completely gone out of his life and replaced by suspicion. After years of this pattern, George was a lonely, frightened man whose life was a failure. So you can see that behavior of the past can feed right into your behavior as an adult. Again, it's not an excuse, but in figuring these things out, you can also figure out how to stop them. So, like George, you learned behaviors in the past that are in full operation now. Now that we know that, now that we've identified it, it needs to stop. You have to stop letting your past dictate your future behavior. And this needs to start now. They say that past behavior is the best predictor of the future, and I believe that 100% unless you do something to change it. This is true of anyone who has committed a sexual crime. If you raped or molested in the past, the chances of you doing it again are very high. History and statistics show this to be absolutely true. In order to make a change, you have to change the way you think and feel and behave, which you can do. To say that you cannot is an unacceptable excuse to continue your abusive behavior. Do not let your past control your future. You can't change the past. What has happened has happened. No one can change the past, but you can, without a doubt, change the future if you are committed to doing it. So, here's your assignment for today. I want you to make a list of the different types of abuse that you have experienced. That's number one. Number two, I want you to list the number of times each kind of abuse occurred. And number three, I want you to list the ages that each of those abuses occurred, or the span of time from age 5 to 10 or whatever, the span of time that those types of abuse occurred. Number four, I want you to list the age and the sex of the person or people who abused you. And finally, number five, I want you to put what your relationship was to those abusers. Later today on our Facebook page, same name as this channel, are you ready for this? I'm going to leave another assignment. It is going to be a list of the effects of abuse if you endured abuse as a child, and an assignment to go with it. I encourage you to engage on the Facebook page, because the more you are engaged in some kind of treatment process, including making a real effort to examine yourself and your behavior through these assignments, the better this is going to work for you. It also gives you an opportunity, if you so choose, to communicate with me if you have any comments or you have any questions. Next time, we are going to further examine the abuse you may have experienced as a child. It is hard for many people who have committed a sexual offense, especially those who were abused as children, to wrap their heads around the fact that they did the same thing to a child, right? It's counterintuitive. You would think somebody who is abused as a child would be that much more sensitive to children. So you'd think. But in understanding how the abuse that you got affected you, you can gain more insight into what you have done to your victims. This is the beginning of learning empathy, which we will get into in depth in later videos. Please subscribe here. Start communicating through this channel, through Facebook, through Twitter. The hashtag is capital R, capital U, capital R, the number 4, capital T. Please feel free to leave comments or ask questions. If you know someone who can benefit from these videos, please share these videos. Let them know. The nice thing about this is you can stop your abusive behavior in the privacy of your own home. So let's do this and have no more victims. Please. Until next time, be well.